Let him introduce himself.
Well, good morning, everyone. Let's hear it again for Matt Shea. So my name is Matt Marshall. I am the state leader for the Washington 3%. I'm a precinct committee officer for the Republican Party.
Yeah!
Combat veteran. And recently, as of November, I was elected to the Eatonville School Board.
Yeah!
A lot has happened over the last year. We all watched as 1639 went into place. We also watched as our sheriffs across the state unified, saying they were not going to enforce this unconstitutional initiative. There were many of us from multiple organizations that went around to county councils all across the state, and with varying success, we were able to pass Second Amendment sanctuary counties. And now, we have an ongoing battle with the corrupt tyrant, Attorney General Bob Ferguson. A few months ago, Scott Bannister and I held a town hall out in Yelm. We talked to a former county commissioner and Thurston County Sheriff John Snaza, asking how can we get a citizen's arrest for the crimes against the people against Bob Ferguson. Well, it didn't go how we wanted. I did get a phone call from the FBI after the Seattle Times ran that. That was interesting. So we were left thinking, what else can we do about Bob Ferguson? So Scott and I decided, let's submit a petition for recall.
Yeah!
So that recall was actually quite successful, except for the fact that it got blocked by the King County Court. We were actually able to get it. We were actually able to get this accepted by the Secretary of State. All right. We then were even able to get a good ballot title that was written by the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. Once we had the ballot title, it was referred to the King County Superior Court because that's where Bob Ferguson resides. Would you all believe me if I told you that 60 pages of our evidence was not considered? Then the Judge Bowman, decided we had insufficient evidence for recall and dismissed the case. So I wasn't overly surprised either. But this taught me two things. One, here in Washington, our recall ability exists in theory only. And then two, we need to remove the judiciary process from the recall, because that is for us, the people, to decide. So, like all of you, I am disgusted with the treatment of Matt Shea. Matt did not conform to party leadership when he was demanded. And he isn't a yes man, and now you see what happens. What's worse is this is not an isolated incident. Many of our representatives have told me that they fear party leadership. That they fear threats, or they face threats and fear of retribution if they speak their mind or speak out of line. Matt Shea cannot be intimidated. Because of that, he's become part of a bipartisan, multi-year political hit job. Has anybody here read the Rampart Group report? Okay. Well, you should go look at the Malheur Refuge Wikipedia page. That looks almost identical. So, over the last week, I have called, emailed, and spoken with almost all of the planners of the Malheur Refuge. In one day, I successfully completed a more in-depth review of the facts and investigation than the Rampart Group into Matt Shea. And I stand with Matt. So I have a few things I want to say to the politicians inside right now. We are disgusted with your hate and corrupt party leadership who place themselves above our liberties. You have fostered and inspired the very corruption of government that brings us to these steps to tirelessly contest. Yesterday, I don't know who all here is aware, but those inside passed Senate Bill 64, no, never mind, not passed. Senate Bill 6406 was introduced. There is no text on this Senate bill. It's a ghost bill. Guess what the title is? Quote, concerning firearms.
No!
We know they're going to add this at the last minute with no public input, and they're going to shove all of these other gun ideas down our throats without us able to do anything about it.
Yep.
So, our Constitution does state one thing that we all believe in: of the people and for the people, and by the people. What it's become, though, is of the elite and for the special interest.
Right.
So to the corrupt politicians, look at yourselves, look at the deceptions you preach, and the actual shame and dishonor you represent. We can all see you. We know who you are. You dishonor America's greatness. Today, when you leave here, visit your legislators and demand due process for Matt Shea.
Yeah!
We will not stand for expulsion, and make sure you pay special attention to any representatives who do vote for expulsion. We need to hold them accountable.
Primary him.
So those of you who know me know I like to follow the path less traveled. I got that from my father. He was a great man, and he was a great leader.
Woo!
He taught me to fight for what's right and what's just, to choose the hard right over the easy wrong, and to never fear adversity so long as my path was righteous. Galatians chapter 6, verse 9. Let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. So what do we do when our representatives no longer follow the will of the people? Mark Twain says it great. Politicians in diapers should be changed regularly and for the same reason. So I've got one other thing to say here. Did you know that I happen to live in the 2nd Legislative District? Did you know that J.T. Wilcox happens to be my representative? So with that, I am formally announcing my candidacy for state representative. 2nd Legislative District, Position 2. I'm going to follow 3 main principles. Number 1, obey the Constitution. Number 2, follow the will of the voters in the 2nd Legislative District. And number 3, do what is ethical. If you would like to help me on this journey, it's going to be uphill. But one thing I've never done is go after the small fight. So, if you'd like to support me, Marshall4wa.com is my campaign website. And together, all of us, we can drain the Evergreen Swamp.